Samsung's love affair with curved smartphone displays has been going on for years now, and with each new generation of hardware we see phones featuring the unusual panels pushed further and further into the mainstream. Now with the new Galaxy Note 7, curved isn't just some exotic option to complement a regular flat-screen model. Instead, it's curved or nothing. There have been a lot of phones that helped bring Samsung to this point, but there's arguably none better suited for comparison with the Galaxy Note 7 than this year's earlier Galaxy S7 Edge. Both phones have a ton in common, but each also finds a few ways to really stand out on its own. I'm Stephen Shank with PhoneArena, bringing you a hands-on comparison of the Galaxy S7 Edge and the new Galaxy Note 7. Earlier this year, Samsung gave us a Snapdragon 820 powered, 4GB of RAM, Quad HD curved screen flagship in the form of the Galaxy S7 Edge. Now in late summer, the manufacturer is launching the new Note 7, which sure sounds a lot like the GS7 Edge, upgraded with an S Pen stylus. After all, we've got the same primary specs, same basic look, and even a screen that's barely any larger at 5.7 inches to the Edge's 5.5. Is that really all there is to the new Note? Not in the least, and even just starting with the phablet's design, we already see little ways Samsung's been refining the way it makes phones. While both the Note 7 and GS7 Edge share curved edge screens and curved edge glass back panels, the Note 7 takes the interesting step of making its front glass symmetrical with the rear glass, while the curves on the GS7 Edge don't quite match up. The effect may not seem like much, but it immediately changes the way the Note 7 feels in the hand. And while the Note is slightly wider than the Edge, that shift helps keep the handset feeling comfortable to use. The Note 7 screen shares the same basic tech and resolution with the GS7 Edge, but does drop one new feature on us, supporting HDR video playback. HDR video on mobile is still super new, so we don't expect to see a ton of demand right out of the gate, but if you've got access to the appropriate content from providers like Netflix or Amazon, the Note 7's well equipped to take advantage of it. Though these phones both offer 4GB of RAM and both support microSD expansion, a feature we see return to the Note 7 after sitting last year's model out, there is one big development in the memory and storage department, with the new Note abandoning its 32GB option in favor of a 64GB standard. It's too early to say if we'll see the same move impact storage options on next year's presumptive Galaxy S8 models, but it's still a promising development for users who love having tons of local storage. Another important evolution we see with the Galaxy Note 7 is Samsung's overdue move to USB Type-C for the phone's wired interface. Other manufacturers have already been flirting with the reversible connector, and it's played a big role in some of 2016's flagship models. With the Note 7, Samsung's finally joining that same club. The shift probably won't change the way you interact with your phone much more than letting you save a split second making sure you're plugging in your charging cable the right way, but it's a relevant one nonetheless, and helps the Note series regain some of its reputation as a testing ground for Samsung's latest hardware. The camera in the Note 7 is the very same 12-megapixel shooter we saw debut earlier this year on the Galaxy S7 and GS7 Edge, and it's got the same high-quality performance now as it did when it first premiered. To be fair, during our testing we noticed plenty of differences between shots captured with the Note 7 and GS7 Edge, but that may speak more to the uncertainties of relying on a smartphone's auto mode for exposure and color balance settings than any fundamental shift in camera performance. But while the camera hardware might be familiar, the Note 7 does debut a new camera software interface for Samsung's Galaxy lineup, hiding its settings behind a heavily swipe-based UI. For users familiar with the GS7 or Edge, it will probably take a little getting used to, but everything you know is still here, you just get to it in a slightly different manner. The camera is far from the only bit of software picking up a fresh interface, and the Note 7 also introduces a revamped TouchWiz featuring Samsung's new Grace UX. Like those camera changes, we're seeing familiar bits move to new places, and the effect feels like a real improvement. We're no longer inundated by a waterfall of options when scrolling through device settings, for example, and the Note 7 does a far better job at isolating things into clearly defined categories. The result is an interface that makes it slightly easier to get where you're going, and we're anxious to see if and when Samsung might bring the same look to the GS7 Edge. While the Note 7 obviously has hardware the GS7 Edge lacks, and beyond the obvious S Pen stylus, we also see it introduce a new biometric iris scanner, what it does share in common with the smaller phone doesn't change that much. Calls sound about the same on both units, and speaker performance is comparable. Almost counterintuitively though, the GS7 Edge manages to pack a larger battery than the Note 7. That's 3600 mAh versus the Note 7's 3500. That and the Note 7's larger screen contribute to it having slightly lower battery life than the GS7 Edge, but we're talking minutes, not hours. Recharge times are also in the same ballpark, and taking advantage of Samsung's fast chargers, either phone should go from 0 to 100 in a little over an hour and a half. Recharge times will be longer if you take advantage of wireless charging, but both models do support Samsung's wireless fast charger. Samsung's Galaxy Note family has a reputation to maintain as the most premium of the company's flagship offerings, and we can't deny the many ways the Note 7 goes above and beyond the Galaxy S7 Edge. From its S Pen stylus to its iris scanner, the Note's the phone you get when you want not just the best of what Samsung has to offer, but also the most of it. The Galaxy S7 Edge, in contrast, is much more restrained, though it still offers the same performance and much of the same stylistic notes as the Note 7. If you bought a Galaxy S7 Edge earlier this year, don't feel bad about your purchase, as Note 7 doesn't offer a hugely different software experience. That said, the Note 7 does have a lot of extras to bring, including an early look at the company's latest user interface and software features like Secure Folder. The Note 7 also gives us a preview at where Samsung's headed next. Squint your eyes just right, or, don't, because the iris scanner won't like that, and you can get a hint at what we might expect from phones like the Galaxy S8 Edge. I'm Stephen Shank with PhoneArena. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the rest of our Galaxy Note 7 coverage.